Welcome to a new edition of the Neon Jazz interview series with jazz singer Mary Stallings. We caught up with her at her home in San Francisco to talk about this COVID-19 world of no live jazz. And we covered much about her career, what is going on these days, and the future. Mary has always stood as a classic example of living her life to the fullest and getting that out there as a mature vocalist. Get to know her and dig it.
I guess my first question is, it's got to be bittersweet. You had an album come out last year. Probably to have music during a pandemic where most people are at home is a good thing, but you can't perform live. So talk to me a little bit about that split and kind of how you're feeling about this whole quarantine that we're in.
Yeah, well, I'm feeling like everybody else is, I have moments. I mean, I've learned to adjust to many things in life, and being traveling on the road, a lot of time you spend, women spend a lot of time alone. So I'm good with it. I mean, for a while, I have only had a couple of moments where I just felt kind of pressured because I'm used to, like everybody else, getting out a lot. Going out when I'm home off the road. I mean, I always enjoy, going in different venues and meeting all my neighbors and everything, but you're shut down. So tell the truth, I was telling a friend the other day, I haven't sung since the shutdown, because I was in Chicago the week they shut everything down. The week that everything was starting to shut down, the 6th of March. So I've been, kind of shut in and haven't listened to much music until recently, because I stay, listening to the newscast just to see, what's taking place. So music hasn't really been a thing that I've been listening to a lot. Maybe in the evening, I say that I've done a lot of concerts over the years, and I have been listening to a lot of my, just kind of, going back, retro, just kind of listening to the old, all my other music. But vocally, I have a friend of mine that actually wants to do some streaming, and I said, I'm not really up to even opening up to sing like that. I don't mind listening to my old recordings, but and that should be a thing that that for most people that is a thing that brings them up. But I'm feeling, I guess, maybe a little sad because I'm not doing it and listening to it, just listening to it live. Other music besides my music makes me feel a little bit, a little bit sad because I'm not, out there really doing what I do. But I know that it brings a lot of joy to people because a lot of people are streaming on the line online, and that, it brings a lot of joy to most people, and I'm, because music is the joy of life, actually. But like I said, I guess maybe I'm feeling just a little a little bit down about it, about, not being able to give like I'd like to.
Let's go back to the beginnings of your life, to the beginnings of music for you. You had 11 siblings, and you started out around 10 years old. Talk to me a little bit about your beginnings in getting into music and singing.
Well, I started actually in the church and, doing gospel music with my sisters and doing a lot of solo work actually prior to that. From there, just music was always around me. Music was always in the house. My sisters, two sisters played piano. One sister played reeds and trombone. So, it's just cousins and aunties and everybody. My mother sang a bit, but not professionally, and not but she did was a director for my sisters and myself when we performed, and we did a lot of that through the churches, going up and down the West Coast here, singing at different events for the church services. I was always a leader. Did most of the soloing, although my sisters did sing also. Did lead sometimes, but I was a major lead singer with my older sisters, and like I said, music has always been part of our existence. There's always music in the house, but then also we also listened to a lot of religious music, but also a lot of contemporary at the time music. A lot of we had a station, KRE, and I can't think of the other station. There's really great stations that played all of the music, the jazz and blues. I remember Louie Jordan, Dizzy Gillespie, and I remember listening to a lot of Sarah Vaughan and Dinah Washington, and those kind of stations. They played all the great music. So music was always circling in our home. And I guess around that, my uncle used to have a band that he rehearsed at the house periodically, and with a lot of the great names of jazz that resided in the San Francisco area. And some guys lived in L.A., but they spent a lot of time in San Francisco because, it was really happening here, also, and it was also in L.A., but San Francisco was a place everybody liked to congregate. And so a lot of great musicians from Lionel Hampton's band and some of the bands used to come through and actually rehearse it with my uncle because he led a band here in San Francisco. When I was around 10 years old, actually, he had all the musicians used to come to the house, and they'd have rehearsals, and I was, smitten by the live music, and eventually, and used to sing along with a lot of the music because I remember a lot of the music on the radio at that time with Dizzy Gillespie's band. They did a lot of those ensembles that the vocal things along with the bebop stuff, and so I heard a lot of that, and I used to sit at the piano, stand by the piano while the band was playing and the piano was playing, and I would kind of sing along with them. So it was just innately in me, I really gravitated toward the music, although religious music was always my first music and my love also. But the jazz and the bebop at the time, because that was that was the era, the bebop. So that was what my ears was attuned to, and I did a lot of, like I said, continue singing in church and everything. But my uncle gave me, when I was 11 years old, gave me a gig with him, with his big band. And I remember it so vividly. It was just incredible. I didn't know, of course, I didn't know many songs. And like I said, the singers that I loved, I kind of gravitated towards some of those kind of, I guess they were called kind of swear songs, but, like the Wheel of Fortune, that's the kind of stuff I was singing with the band because I didn't know, all those great love songs. So, I got that one gig with him, and then that, that was just, such an awesome experience. But I mean, I've always, like I said, stayed with the religious music. That, like I said, is part of my life. But then I started learning songs, I guess, as I got a little older. Started, kind of singing some of the more standardish type songs. Started learning more material. By the time I can say that I'm skipping years, but in order to get to where I'm going, because all that was redundant, a lot of church music and singing. But when I was about 13, 14, that's when I really started learning all these, a lot of standards. And from 11, 12, 13, 14, some standards like Summertime, or The Man I did do The Man I Love, because I did that in junior high school when I was about 13, 14. So I was singing, and I did a lot of singing when I was in junior high school, earlier years, I guess from elementary school. I mean, I was always on the radio. I'm going back now, from I guess 10 to about 12, 13, yeah. 10, no, about 12, because my sisters were leaving then. Yeah, it wasn't many years between that 10 and 12 that I was always on the radio, some of the broadcast shows on Sunday night, and all my little friends, used to get excited when I got to school on, Mary, I heard you on the radio, yeah. But anyway, that was religious music. But as I got to junior high school, I had a wonderful teacher who just loved me, and had another a singer who was really very popular, that was doing very well. But she was singing gospel music too. So they called me Little Mary Stallings, but her name was Jenny Ross, and they call her Little Jenny Ross. So there was two singers. But when I got to junior high school, Jenny Ross was in my class, and I had never met her before, because she was quite popular. Had many records out at that time, and I hadn't recorded it at that time yet. Oh yes, I did. And I did. I had one recording out. That's right, a gospel. I hope I'm running this to you righteously. I'm trying to get to the jazz, all the other stuff, how the transition took place.
Sure.
But let's see. Yeah, so I started singing in junior high school and with Miss Hannah, and she used to favor me, and I did all the solo work for her, and I'd sing at all of the events, the hospitals, and that's when I started really traveling around with her, singing all the hospitals, military institutions, and all kinds of things in junior high school, all kinds of events. And I remember working in hotels, doing some special things from some auxiliary, I don't know. But anyway, a lot of those things I was doing. But I guess when I got ready, I guess in the ninth grade, that's when I started really working. I started at 15. I started really singing, having more gigs, working with some of the bands. And when I was 16, when I actually started making real money, I'd work with a guy was a very popular drummer here, and he had bands, and I would work and do a lot of the programs with him. And I guess through the years, it's just been music. And I guess when I was about 17, that's when I was looking at the pictures. When I was about 17 years old, that's when I really started traveling around the city, working clubs, and a lot of the great jazz clubs in the city and in Oakland. And I was really full swing then. I was really performing with some of the finest musicians in the area, which some made names like Pharoah Saunders and some of those guys. I can't think of all the names. Lonnie Hewitt and just many great local musicians that were living here. But yeah, I started working some of the jazz clubs. I worked some of the blues houses, and I guess when I was about I was about 17 then. But when I was 18, I got the job with Louie Jordan's band, so I worked with him. I was working a club in Oakland, and I was finishing that weekend, and he opened up, was getting ready to open up, so he came in town a little early with his band, and caught my act and asked me would I join him. And next week, so I got a clearance from my mom and everybody, because I was still in high school. So yeah, so I worked with him that week, and it was just on and on. It's just music everywhere. I mean, and I can't tell you how it evolved because there's so many people that I worked with at that time. And I used to, when I, early on, I'm going back now because I used to go to the Black Hawk, which was one of the West Coast's great jazz houses where a lot of recordings were made. And, Miles Davis and a lot of those guys recorded, a lot of great significant recordings came out of there. So I used to go there every Sunday and have jam sessions. I mean, that was from the time I was 16 till, until ever, 18, 19, when I started meeting everybody. I met, Dizzy Gillespie, and he took me under his wing, and then I got the gigs, it's kind of like a mushroom thing. I got the gigs with Count Basie, then I got the gigs with Billy Eckstein, and just started getting all these gigs everywhere. But I worked with, several significant, great artists through the years, and just looking through a portfolio of it, and I said, wow, God, yeah, I was out there. I was really out there, really performing, and then I got the gigs to go, to go abroad and do some work and headlining shows. So it's just been a kind of a whirlwind kind of a situation. It was like a mushroom, how everything just, you get one gig and you start getting, and people start knowing your name and start, giving you calls, and it just, and I did all the headlines here. I was the first call because I worked with all the stars, some of the biggest houses in San Francisco. I worked opposite, with the headliner. I worked with the headliners. I mean, opposite a lot of the great performers, great names used to come through here. So, like I said, I was first call, So, I was very well appreciated in my area, before I started getting out there.
Yeah, no, that's wonderful. That's wonderful. So, with all of that in mind, talk to me a little bit about what do you love the best about being a performer?
What I love about it, I get a chance to open my heart up and say what's on my mind. I'm not much for sitting and chit-chatting with a lot of people a lot of times, but, that that has given me a vehicle to really express myself. I think in fact, I always say that, I'm better expressing myself with a little music behind me. So, it's just my way of getting to say things is on my heart, and I feel so. I guess since starting very young too, I guess because I was always not always very verbal, a lot of talking. I mean, I was always a kid, kid at heart, but didn't do a lot of talking. But I always found music that really expressed the way I was feeling. I didn't write too much. I mean, I used to do a little writing of gospel music as a kid, so and a little poetry here and there, just express myself. But performing, I feel so at home, and for me, it's very important for me to incorporate myself or be incorporated with musicians that are serious about what they do, and it's just so important for me to feel like they're supporting my thoughts. You know what I mean? Or hearing what I'm trying to convey, and I just feel so comfortable. I remember I was working with this great vibe player. I remember Bobby telling a horn player, because it's three of us, Bishop, Norman Williams, and myself and Bobby, and I guess they had a trio behind us. And he said, boy, Mary, he said, you walk up there, he said, look how comfortable she is. And I kind of thought about it, and I said, yeah. I mean, because I don't, always have a lot to say to people, but when I feel at home, and like I said, I feel at home on stage, and so I do open up a little more and try to and communicate with the audience. I think it's always so important to let them know that you appreciate them being there for you to tell your stories, and and to be receptive to it. But so I truly I love what I do. I love what I do, and I'm serious about what I do, and I don't like to be around any people that aren't receptive to being a team player, as I say. And I've been with some great musicians and great young people too, especially of late too, who are really serious about the music, and it's so important for me to to give myself and to let them know how serious it is for me, for you to stay there with me, and to help support what my conversation that I'm trying to project at this time. Yeah. So when you start out so young, I mean, I guess you have to love it to stick with it, as I have. It's just a part of me, and this is, I guess, was my destiny. People wonder, which was your destiny? You're trying to figure out what the destiny is. I mean, are you doing something that you really love doing and you think you're given, and you think that people are receiving and appreciating it? Well, this is where you are. This is what you need to do, and you have to keep perfecting it. Because anytime I step on that bandstand, I'm serious about what I do. I'm not saying I'm always right on point, but sometimes you are, sometimes you're not. But at least I'm serious about my attempt. So so it's that stage is where I belong, and like I said, with this pandemic that we're experiencing now is slow things down, but God has His way for how things come about in your life. And I tell you, one thing it has done for me is it's made me settle down more to really appreciate the great things that have been given to me in my life. And I don't begrudge anything in my life, that I've experienced. It's really life. And, and I just pray that things get better and we all survive all this, so there could be music given again in a safe environment, in a safe way, that we'd all be healthy doing what we do. Because music is the best. I mean, without music, we don't live. Without the sounds. Like I said, I've been quiet about it because I guess I'm going through a little remorseful stage, not being able to give, but I'll get back there. I mean, like I said, I've been listening to my own concerts and really enjoying them. So anyway.
Well, Mary, you covered so many things that I was going to ask you. Thank you for taking some time out to talk with Neon Jazz, and I really appreciate it.
Oh, sure. Absolutely.
Thanks for listening and tuning in to another Neon Jazz interview, where we give you a bit of insight into the finest singers in San Francisco, Kansas City, and spots all over the world, giving fans all that jazz. And thanks to Mary for her time, music, and stories. If you want to hear more interviews, go to Famous Interviews with Joe Domino in the iTunes Store. Visit neonjazz at youtube.com, and for everything Neon Jazz all the time, go to the neonjazz.blogspot.com. Until next time, enjoy the jazz, my friends.
Neon Jazz.